Hi everyone, this is Mehul Matan. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we have a very special guest. His name is Vijit. So a quick story about Vijit is he got into Colombia's financial engineering program with a GPA of 2.98. Now a lot of people want to get into Colombia, but all these universities, if you see a cutoff of 3.2. So definitely Vijit has done something in his profile. That's why Colombia has given his admit. So in this podcast, we'll understand from Vijit what he did extra, what was his education, what was his work experience, what all academic projects he worked, and a lot of other things. But first of all, Vijit, thank you for giving me your time and thank you for joining in today.
No worries, man. It's always a pleasure, believe me.
So Vijit, like, can you walk us through your background? What was your education background?
Honestly, my background was kind of unique coming into financial engineering, because I never studied finance, honestly, academically speaking. I had done a BTech in computer engineering and an MBA in technology management, which was more focused towards business analytics and intelligence side. However, financial engineering was somewhat of a distant dream from me back in college. And recently, I have been at working at Barclays as a quant structurer. And the story for how I got into quant without doing finance is just a very long and yeah, some
Yeah.
story. But yeah,
So,
that's my
so
background, by the way.
okay, so your background basically is in you did bachelor's in computer engineering,
Yeah.
MBA too. So it's I guess NMIMS has a 5 year dual degree program.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So you did a 5 year dual degree program and then you joined into Barclays directly. Is that right?
No. I was actually initially at Sapiens.
Okay.
That was an insurance software company, and I was like there for like 4, 5 months. And that was like the training period where I was like, this training period I'm gonna use to transition to an IB. And that is where I studied a lot of CFA level one, level two swaps and options courses. And once the opportunity presented to me, I was like, let's go give my 100%. And then I got into Barclays. And that was like good 7 rounds of interview.
Wow, 7 rounds of interview. That's amazing. So so definitely, because you have an engineering degree, computer engineering too, you have an edge. But how did you cover? Because I'm sure like in Barclays, you are working as a quant strat. A lot of quant finance stuff would have been asked to you. So was it easy to crack or like how did you prepare for? I'm not asking the questions, but how
Yeah,
did
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
prepare for that?
So before that, let me tell you a bit more about my background. When I joined Barclays, I was in the business management team. So it was like more about analytics side, right? And to prepare for that, I already had an analytics background in college. However, I had also done some very interesting projects. One of them was on sentiment analysis on social media to predict stock price movement, and that was my final year project. And on top of, so I had done, again, as I said, I had done CFA level one, level two, swaps and options side. Many people, of course, do John C. Hill, which I have gone through and I can highly recommend it. I had not done it personally at that time, but I knew that options is something that I am passionate about because of a professor. And once I had, so yeah, but many people think that getting into finance is all about, doing derivatives and options, which is kind of true if you're going towards markets. But what is equally important, I feel, is to have, to just be yourself, right? And to be really good in communication while you're being yourself. That is, I feel, super important in any interview. The other person should want to think that, hey, I can sit with this person every day of every hour and work. That is super important. So, yeah, apart from that, of course, I did a lot of research into the company that I was going into the people who were going to interview me. It's always good to have an in into the interview. When I say an in, what it means is that to know who in the world is interviewing you, who will be on the other side of the chair, which you cannot know directly, but there are indirect ways of knowing, right? Through maybe go to LinkedIn, search for someone who is in that team, talk to them, tell them about, from where you're coming, and then ask them, hey, by the way, this guy is going to take my interview. What do you think? How is the team looking? What are the future plans of their team? That's how I got into Barclays. That's how I broke into business management side of Barclays. And it's also super important to know that there are certain teams in IBs which are easier to break into compared to certain other teams. You cannot directly break into quant stuff if you have a 3C GPA, not even 3C GPA. Honestly speaking, 2.9. So Barclays had a cutoff of 3 out of 4 for people from my college. So I didn't even get to sit there for the interviews. And that too was for client strategy and business management side, not for quant stuff. They will not interview for quant stuff from NMIMS that
Yeah, so
easily.
yeah, so
So yeah,
how did you transition? Because I know like
mm,
if you're on the business side on the team
yeah,
and going into a quant side is like two different things because on the quant side you require really good hands-on on the mathematics, statistics, of course, knowledge of finance, and of course you have the computer engineering, so you have the computer science side of it. But how did you break into the role?
so here's what happened. So at one point I was like, I used to see the JDs of quant, and it used to have this line: only people from top IITs and NITs are
Yeah.
accepted, they are taking application because it's there in India, right? Like, from the top college. And NMIMS is not top college. If we keep the top college aside, I'm not even a great student, academically speaking. So I had pretty much given up on that dream. My dream in the middle was like, okay, fine, I should probably do business analytics masters. So I was actually preparing for that initially when I got into Barclays. And I got into Purdue University. But one day my director took me to a printer room and he's like, hey, by the way, there's an opening. And at that time, I had branded myself as number one, someone who was analytically strong, and number two, someone who knows Python really well. Because I have carried out a lot of automation activities at Barclays. It's very important for a person to brand themselves when they are at a company. How other people see them. It's very important. So he reached out to me and he was like, there's an opportunity in quant structuring role. At that time, I did not even know who structurers are. And then I was like, okay, sounds interesting because it has the word quant in it. And I looked into the JD. It was for the Exodesk. I reached out to the director and he told me, like, he just gave me a book called Muhammad Bazuba for exotic options. And he's like, go read this, come back. I was like, and I took about 1 month just going through that book. And after 1 month, I came back to that guy. I was like, have you hired anyone? Because I'm ready now. And then he was like, then he interviewed me again. Again, I did not have the background, but I had my preparation ready and 5, 6 rounds of interviews. And yeah, that is pretty much how I cracked it in. So for me also, let me tell you another thing. Internal mobility is something that is easier if you are going into any role compared to even referrals for that matter, because the other person knows you directly. The other person has seen you directly and knows how your image is. That's how I wanted to.
Yeah, Vijay, this is amazing story. You know what? I'll tell you, a lot of my friends did a very similar transition into the quant side and the risk side of it. They did not get a job directly when they graduated. So they joined the company and slowly internally they transitioned into quant and risk roles. And I feel this is one of the best thing anyone can do. So that's like a great, good thing you did. So, then first is, of course, you applied to Purdue. So you mean I
Yeah,
think you already had that in mind to come to United States, right? And
yeah.
then of course you moved to Constrat, and then I understand why you chose MFE. Why do you want to pursue MFE? But then what things you did to break into Colombia? Like, just give me the roadmap. Like, okay, I gave GRE, I gave TOEFL, I got these many scores. How many times you gave GRE? How many times did you give TOEFL? What all projects you worked on? Can you give me a roadmap of what you did?
Sure thing, sure thing. So first and foremost, it's important to know that the competition is out there. Every third person will have a maths Olympiad with them. That is the truth. And Everyone wants to get into an Ivy League. That is again the truth. The brand name matters. So it's important, especially when it comes to Ivy Leagues, is how you're differentiating yourself from the competition. And of course, as I said, right, like everyone is smart out there. So once you know that everyone is smart, it's important to know is okay, then what am I bringing to the table that others are not? Now, in my story, when I was in college, I was a part of this international NPO called Enactus. And I was part of it for 3 years out of my 5 years of college. And there I was at a senior position. I became a vice president when I was leaving, right? I was also a co-founder of one of the projects. And in this time period, I have worked, my beneficiary set were trafficked women. My beneficiary set were the farmers of Maharashtra. I had gone on field visits. I had talked to them in person. And that was number one, I feel, because that was something that was differentiating me. And I was, but yeah, I mean, that's a good story, right? But then the next question came how I was able to connect my story to what the program needs. And every person out there needs one thing. Every program needs one thing for sure, and that's communication. How good are you at communication? So I was the vice president of marketing. uh, I had turned from an introvert to an extrovert through that program. So yeah, that was something I genuinely think that differentiated me because every personal statement that asked for diversity, I was able to present something which was pretty unique. So I mean, imagine being in the same room as these women who have gone through so much, being in the same room as these farmers who have seen a drought, right? And being able to and ask and you have to communicate with these people because you know you can actually help these people. So yeah, that was something that I think, kind of differentiated me. Of course, there are 100 websites out there who will tell you how to make a statement of purpose. But many people do not know that there are many interesting Chinese websites out there who um, give more insights into how you should write these diversity statements, who will be even reading these statement of purposes, what kind of people they have such in-depth knowledge in those Chinese websites, man. So yeah, that and even who will be interviewing you, what kind of questions you can expect on the interviews. I s- got I am someone who will scrap the whole internet if I want to research something. So I got to know about certain websites. And I remember in Chinese 1 year back, I was making my account in Chinese using Google
Okay.
Translate. Yeah, and using Google Translate, and I got a lot of insights into the kind of things that these guys are looking into.
So
Um,
do you know, because I know a lot of these programs, okay, so Colombia's director is a Chinese. A
yeah,
lot of all the top MFE programs, if you see, be it NCAC, be it Rutgers, be it any university, most of them, the program directors are Chinese who are assessing your profile, right?
yeah.
So do you know any such website on top of your head? I know it's very tough to remember a Chinese website, but any such website, are you aware on top of your head which is good? Which you would
I
recommend?
think there is one. These are more like forums in which
Okay.
people put their experiences. One is, I think, Chase Dream or something.
Chase.
Okay.
Chase
Yeah,
Dream.
Chase Dream.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have it right, and I have it in my bookmarks.
Okay. Okay. So can you
Yeah, I
just
have it
spell
in,
it for the
yeah, Chase
audience?
Dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's forum.chasedream.com. Okay,
Okay.
and it's like, it's again, Chinese website totally.
Okay.
And this is a very interesting forum because it actually gives you insights in experiences of people in interviews. And believe me or not, if even if you read one post, you will have good idea. Okay. But but if you are really passionate and if it's like keeping you up at night, you will end up scrapping the whole website.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I think many people who really, really want something work. So yeah.
Okay, I understand that your SOP was fantastic. So, how many years of Barclays experience did you had on your resume when you applied to Columbia?
4 years of work experience at Barclays and 2 years as quant structure.
Whoa, so you have 6 years of working experience?
No,
Okay,
four
so
and a
out of
half years
four, okay,
actually.
out of four, you said 2 years is your business side of it and 2 years is the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And like how much was your GRE? Because I understand
Hmm.
that GPA wise, I mean you got 2.8 GPA on a scale of 4. And
Hmm.
this is just for audience that I am NMIMS in general, they do not have a scaling on 10, they have a scaling
Yeah.
on 4. So they just give your GPA on a scale of 4. That's why Vijay already had the GPA on a scale of 4, which is 2.8. So Vijay, like so how much was your GRE and how much was your TOEFL or IELTS, whatever you did?
I had given GRE twice. Once I was applying for business analytics, I had given it once, and at that time it was 322.
Hmm.
However, my quant was only 166. So the next, and so I was like, I need to improve my quant. I do not care about my verbal. Okay. So next time I gave my GRE, my total GRE score actually reduced from 322 to 318. But I was absolutely fine with it because my quant score was now at 168.
Whoa, okay. This is the
Yeah,
good thing. Okay.
yeah. So I was okay with my verbal going down immensely comparatively, but that was also because I was not concentrating as much on verbal. And as far as IELTS is concerned, it was making up for my verbal because my IELTS was at 8.5.
Okay, okay. And this is just for audience, right? I mean, I just
Yeah,
want to, tell you one thing out of so many years of experience in the US. A lot of these, a lot of the program directors of all this big university, they are Chinese, right? And if you see any Chinese student coming to the US, I mean, in general, like if you see we Indians, we are very, you know, I mean, we doubt ourselves a lot on our English, the way we speak. And I know, I mean, because I know this because when I was coming to the US, I also had the same thing. Oh, is my English good? Would people be able to understand this? But one thing, you all the Indians, if you're watching this podcast, please understand this. I mean, if you compare our English with Chinese English, we are much more ahead. See, of course, Americans are the best. I mean, their English is
yeah,
the best. But then our English is better than the Chinese folks. Chinese are good with the math side of it. They might have brilliant profile. They, if you see any Chinese guy or any Chinese person, they'll have FRM certified. They will be math Olympiad, but they are not good communicators, and that's what
yeah.
make us Indians, somewhat I would say have an edge because we are great with communication, and this is very important when you're going for any MFE programs, if in case you have an interview, because in the interview, what really matters is the communication. So this is just a side note to all the Indian audience. Yeah. So Vijit, like, what did you do any, because you already have like 4 years of working experience? What do you think really shined out in your profile that helped you in Colombia? Was it your work? Of course, it's a combination of all of that. We cannot just say it's just one. But then, can you also tell us like how about your letter of recommendation? Which all letter of recommendation did you take?
So of course, let me give you a little bit more. There's LOR, there are my pre-master courses that I had done, of course. And of course, I'll give you some insight on my SOP as well. I'll try to cover each. Firstly, when it comes to LORs, one maths LOR, one computer LOR. These two are very important. And try to get one professional LOR because that will be very wholesome throughout, right? And it's very important to make the story. So now, if you have done a lot in your life, then it will not be possible to cover everything in your SOP, and that is where LOR comes into the picture, right? I did not talk as much about my personal experiences in NPOs, national non-profit organizations, that much in my SOPs, but I covered it in my LOR through my professors because my professors talked about how I was part of these NPOs. Of course, they will have to cover about the subjects that's a no-go. That's like a no-brainer. Of course, they have to cover about like how good you were and whatever courses that you had done. But more than that, they covered about my experiences in NPOs, which talked about how good I was in leading and communicating. They talked about also about what all I had done after passing out from college. As an alumni, I had gone back to college and taken a guest lecture for students about how to get into the industry. I have recently taken a guest lecture on Monte Carlo simulations. So it's important to be in touch if you are planning on an MFE after some job work experience. It's important to be in touch with your professors and with the university. That is something that I had done extra. So these things matter a lot, and these things should all together make up an interesting story about who you are. So LORs were covering this front about how I am as a student and how I am, after being a student and how I am still a good alumni because you have to think again from the college perspective. If I'm going to any college, they would want someone, number one, of course, who is academically strong, but number two, who is also a good alumni because they actually hone themselves for that. So, yes, if you can show those things, amazing. That is something that I talked about in my LOR. Should I cover the SOP as well?
Yeah, yeah,
A
definitely.
bit
That would
more?
be, yeah, Vijay, that would be
Yeah, I
great if
thought
you
that will
can.
be helpful.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you can just
yeah,
talk about how was
yeah.
SOP, like was it a one page, two page, and like what things did you cover in that?
Yeah. So nowadays, SOPs are more question and answers that universities have turned into. And some places will have the same question in 750 words. Some places will have same question in 200 words. Different universities have different requirements. What I had done was that I had filled out Colombia number one. First, I had filled out Colombia. And the great thing that that helped me with is that it was a really long SOP. So I had put in all my information there, right? I was able to actually have a story with all my information there, both a personal statement and an SOP. After that, I was pretty much like just changing things around to for different colleges. Another thing that is important while making the SOP is to do a very thorough research into the universities. There are two ways of doing it. One is indirectly doing it through you look into the vision and mission of the university. Just type the university name, the school name, maybe the program name, and look into the news in Google News, what is going on around it. You might come to it, hey, Chicago has got recently a lot of grants, University of Chicago, with respect to their program. And hey, I mean, Berkeley is not doing that well because they've had three, four program directors in probably a year's time, which is not that a great sign. So you get to know about these things and you can actually apply these things inside the SOP to show and to actually show off that, hey, I have done a lot of research in you guys. You guys have got a great grant. Of course, right? Good things. But yeah, you guys have got a good grant. And I think this is how I can be beneficial as a student. And this is how I can contribute myself. So show both sides, show how you will be a great fit and great fit meaning that number one, how you will benefiting from whatever is going on in the university and how you will be able to help the university. Look into the mission and vision part of it, right? Every university has a mission and vision, and then align yourself through it. I found it a very good way to make my story because my stories used to start with this is your mission and vision, and this is how I see myself, a great fit for it. So that's how I used to start my SOPs because that had a really good instant connection with the universities. I think Columbia has in your light, I is our light or something. And these things actually matter. But again, this was the indirect way of doing the research. There's a direct way of doing the research. And for me, it was going through the information sessions. You get to know a lot about the university through their information sessions. I remember Georgia Tech, I'd gone to almost all of them. And Georgia Tech, for example, I'm giving Georgia Tech has, you will understand how close they are to data science, their program. And they actually are trying to market themselves more as a data science plus QCF kind of a thing. And then you can actually apply it in your SOPs that, hey, I am someone who has had experience with data a lot, and I see your university going in this direction, and I would like to get into this direction, and I would be a great fit for that university. So this is how you, really mend your stories in your SOP. Of course, again, you cannot cover everything in your SOPs. That is why you have an LOR which can complement your SOPs. If you are writing that I am a great communicator, your LOR will be saying why you are a great communicator if you don't have that space in your SOP. So that is why how I had gone through my SOPs. I had also done a lot of bunch of other stuff, which I would recommend someone with a lot of work experience to do as well. I had done pre-master courses from Baruch. I've already put that in my post that there are different universities who are giving these. And I had done from Baruch because main reason being that I had to cover for my marks, and Baruch was the only college which was giving marks, right? And I had to, and there was a way for me to get a distinction. I was like, I'm gonna get that. So yeah, I had done like three courses from Baruch, and two of them I had gotten managed to get distinction. So again, a way to show the university and talk about in my SOP that I am prepared for uh, your courses. Anyone who has not had, I have people with no background in maths or no background in computing have reached out to me and be like, "What should I do?" And I was like, try to do some prerequisite courses and show the university a way that you are prepared for this. That is very important.
So Vijit, that's like really good points, I would say. I mean, the pre-MFE thing, which Baruch
Yeah.
offer, definitely one of the best, and it's also recommended by a lot of universities that have some pre-MFE test stuff in your profile if you do not have it. My question is because I mean, profile-wise, definitely you are good candidate. Did you also had an interview with the director or something like that? Did you have
But
any
yeah,
interviews with
I
Colombia?
had,
I have two
yeah,
questions.
I had,
Yeah, I have
sure.
two questions. So first thing is,
Mhm.
of course, how was your interview experience? I'm not asking about any interview questions, but just if you can on a higher level, just tell me like if it's a technical, if it would be a technical interview or if it would be a behavioral, and we can wrap that up. Or if you want to give more details, more than happy to take it. Second is how are you covering the loan part? Because I know I'm not sure,
Mm.
I do not remember the exact detail of the program. Like I guess it's somewhere close to 80,000 to $90,000, like the educational cost of it.
It has gone up.
It has gone up. Oh, okay, I guess
It
hundred
has
thousand
gone up.
dollar. I do not remember the correct numbers, but can you cover these two things? How was the interview?
Mm.
No questions. I'm not asking the questions, but just in general, like if you can give the audience. This is just for people, coming. I mean, who will
Yeah,
apply in future? Yeah.
sure, sure. So I had actually interviewed for Georgia Tech, Nanyang Business School, and Columbia. And I'll give you an overview of Columbia. It was not that technical. It was actually very behavioral, and it was very much like your CV, just go through your CV kind of a thing, and asking if there are any loopholes in your CV, they will definitely ask that. And always first question, talk about yourself. Every interview, just talk. So have a very good story. I had a 2-minute story, which I was like, this is something that I have to be prepared about for any interview out there. So yeah, what they're trying to understand in these interviews, very important again for all everyone who's listening, is that what these people are trying to understand is every program is that are you employable, right? Employment percentages matter for every university. So you have to understand from their perspective. Are you employable is the question. The interview is just a way for them to find out. So you have to show in these, interviews that I can give an interview tomorrow. I am already prepared, right? So that was how my Columbia interview was. And with respect to financing my education, yes, I am taking a loan. Again, it was a long process going through different banks and stuff. I know someone personally who has been doing it since 1.5 months, and I'm telling him that, hey, get your I-20, get done with it. But it's a very long process. I am taking a loan from a bank, at least partially 40, 50. I think that will be like what, 60% or 50% of 50 to 60% of my total tuition cost that the loan is.
So like what's the education cost of Colombia? I actually forgot. Can you tell what's the number?
For 9 months in my I-20, I have $103,000.
Okay,
However,
but that would include both your education and your living expense, right? In your
no, that's just a tuition cost. It's $103,000.
for 9 months. Okay, and okay, and how long is your education, or how much will you have to pay for the education in
So
total?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So, to make things clear, it is $103,000 just the education for 9 months, which is, I believe, nearly 2 semesters that they're calculating. However, the third semester is lower. It is around 15K or something, 14, 15K. So the third semester does not have as many electives as the other semesters. The first 2 semesters are the ones
So
that
this is
are,
total of $120,000 of just education. Dude, wow, amazing. No words.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
great. I mean,
It's a
it's a
difficult year.
yeah, see, and this is just for my Indian audience, right? A lot of you, okay, here is the quick story of a lot of my friends, okay? They got into Cornell. No, I'm not talking about MFE degrees. I'm talking about one of my friends, she is from MIM, okay? So she
Yeah.
got into Cornell, but she comes from a middle class family, and the fees, I'm not sure about which masters she did, but her fees was more than $100,000. And one thing which I always say is, if you do not, please do not take everything as loan. Please, because see, the market is such, you do not know you will get a job, you won't get a job, or because some a lot of things, recently this news came in from the parliament that, oh, we should remove the H1B, we should remove the OPT thing, which is, which gives you, the 3 years of you can stay for 3 years in the US after you graduate. So people were talking about removing things. Things are very uncertain in the US. So this is just for the audience that, if you, because a lot of my friends, they actually deferred all these universities. They went into Georgia Tech, they went into NC State, all this tier 2 universities, just because Washington University, just because they could not afford $100,000. And this I'm telling you, because this I'm why I'm highlighting all the stories, because see, from outside, all this world is very it looks so good that, oh, you made into Cornell, or you made into U Chicago, but if you cannot afford the education fee, because none of these university guarantees a placement. So if so, just think of a situation wherein you have such a high debt of $100,000 all loan, and you do not have a job. That's where the
I
situation
agree.
becomes very tricky. And nowadays, just for international, it's becoming tough and tougher, because of course, there are a lot of things happening within the country. A lot of immigration rules are changing. Things are becoming a more stricter, I would say. So
Hmm.
if so, see, the good part about Vijit is he might have certain savings from personal, and definitely from parents. But my advice is, please do not go into all this university with all loan, 100%
Yeah.
loan, very bad financial decision.
Very true. Very true. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. Also, it's important for people to, I feel, talk to others, right? People who are already in the university that they have gotten acceptance from. Understand what the job market situation is. Understand what kind of jobs you will be getting, because not everyone out there gets a quant trading or a quant research role. You have to fight a lot for those roles. You have to be really good for those roles. So understand what kind of jobs your university gives, because for example, Baruch is great when it comes to quant devs, not that great into quant trading and quant research, right? Again, Georgia Tech great into quant devs, not that great into quant trading, quant research. NYU has great connections with different banks and stuff. I think it's Bank of America that NYU has great connection with. So many people go into that. Again, Columbia being a mathematical finance thing, students tend to get into quant research side or quant trading side. I would say 40%, which is a huge number. NCSU, great when it comes to risk, you must be knowing. So it's important for you to, number one, talk to people who are already in these programs, understand what the job situation is right now, right? Not every university out there will be able to give you such great employments. So it's important to make those decisions about universities once you have these things into account, once you know the fees and once you know what you can expect after graduation.
Also, one more thing which I just want to say to all my audiences, like, a lot of these university will say, oh, our program alumni or our program
Yeah.
students have got $200,000. That's what you see on Continent. Those all are rubbish numbers. I'm saying upfront, I know so many people who are unemployed, graduated from top universities, be it NYU, be it Georgia Tech, be it
Yeah, yeah.
NCSU, be it, I don't want to just name it, but I know a lot of universities,
Mhm.
they just quote wrong numbers. And that is, please
Yeah,
be aware that not
yeah,
everyone in the US is getting a $200,000 salary.
yeah.
It's not about the salary. Not everyone is getting a job. I mean, just
True.
look at the placement statistics of all these universities. And a good thing about Continent, which I recently saw, was they are right now telling how many people got employed within the US and outside the US.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
Colombia, I guess it's 55 to 60 percentage. Quote me if I'm wrong, but I mean this is
Hmm.
the decision you all, and this is not for just for, I'm not just saying Colombia. You see any
Yeah.
university, if because I mean if you're coming to US with such a good amount of loan, the thing you need to think about is, oh, will I get a job? What's the placement statistics? How talk to students who have graduated and do not have a job. Talk to students like
True.
that and ask them how much universities helped you when you were in your bad situation. I know so many
Exactly.
people, all the top universities, Carnegie Mellon, Cornell, these university. I mean, I do not want to specify which universities, but few universities, they don't even help you when you are in such a bad condition. Being an
True.
international, it becomes so tough that
True.
of course you do not have anyone in the US, that is you don't have your
True.
friends, you don't have families, because so
True.
and then you, the top of it, you have such a burden of the loan. So
True.
please,
True.
please,
True.
please understand, if you're coming to the US, and that too in this economy, please make
Yeah.
sure talk to a lot of folks. Yeah.
Talk to a lot of folks.
Sure. So Vijit, like
Yeah.
any last advice? I know, I mean, you shared all your journey. I mean, did you do any kind? So you cleared CFA level 1 and level 2 certificates?
No, I have
No.
never done CFA. That's what I'm saying. I never had a finance academic background in my life.
Oh, so you just prepared for it? Is that the case?
Yes, for the sake of the interviews, I was like, I need a good source, and CFA pretty much covers it. So I prepared for it using CFA level 1 and level 2, only derivatives and options part. That's it.
Okay. Oh,
Because yeah, because I mean, I was like, I need to have some background in this to crack the interviews. And yeah, that is how I had gone about it. And yeah, that was my
any,
story.
yeah,
Yeah.
any Vijit, any last advice to all the students who are planning for
Oh, I
MSc?
am full of advices, man.
Yeah, yeah, please, please.
Um, well, there was a part in my life, like there was a situation in my life where I had masters in business analytics from Purdue, which was pretty sorted in one hand, and a job offer from Quant on the other hand. And I was stretched. Honestly speaking, I was stretched. Like, okay, should I go to the US? And every Indian has that, like, your life is sorted after going to US, and that was also my thinking at that time. It was 2 years back. Or should I pursue a quant structuring role? And someone actually advised me at that time that you can do masters anytime, Vijit, but will you get a quant role ever again? And I was like, yo, that's a shooting star I need to catch. That is a quant role for me. Um, so again, that is it is important for you to see what really develops you as a person, right? Of course, masters will definitely develop me, but hey, a quant role is something that was at that time for me completely out of my comfort zone and still a distant dream that I was finally getting to realize. So it's important for you to, understand what, like, you have to leave a lot of the things that you want from life and ask yourself honestly, like, hey, will this actually be, develop me or evolve me as a person? And quant structuring actually did that because I started from rock bottom, not knowing anything about structuring, not knowing much about options. And then now I see myself and I'm like, one of the best decisions I've taken in my life. That is number one. Number two, I'll try to keep it short, is that I have actually interacted with a lot of people recently. Last year, when I was doing my pre-masters, I interacted with people from the same pre-masters who were planning on pursuing at that time. Even right now, I'm interacting with a lot of people from Colombia, from the industry. I have kind of realized that many people are introverts, especially when it comes to quants, right? And don't do that to yourself. Go out there, talk to people, interact, because the age of competition is, of course, there, but it's kind of like, pulling you back. It's the time for collaboration, honestly. And if you collaborate more than you compete, you will realize that you are going to go very far and you're going to be much happier. That is something that I have seen it personally. That you have to go out there, you have to talk to people, network, and collaborate, and you would see great things happen to yourself. Like these are just 2 cents that I had.
Okay, okay. But yeah, Vineet, I mean, good. And I feel a lot of people, Colombia is just a dream, man. I mean, I'm in US, so, but when I was in India, I mean, all these universities, big names, right? Cornell,
Yeah,
Columbia, Baruch, I mean, one of course, dreams for everyone. So thank you, really, thank you for, joining in and sharing your story and letting
yeah.
us know, if I just want to summarize, of course you had a good profile, but on top of it, you researched a lot on the Chinese websites to understand how was the interview, what kind of people are being selected, what to put in,
Also, QuantNet.
also.
QuantNet is the go-to thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, big
definitely.
time.
One of I feel content is one of the best websites to understand, there are a lot of people who write their reviews and you can actually catch those reviews and understand. So definitely your profile, you did pre-Baruch, the pre-MFE, I guess the
Yeah.
pre-rec from Baruch. You studied a lot of, did a lot of projects and studied books like the CFA L1, L2 for options and derivatives. I mean, same, but yeah. Of course, on the GPA part, you could try to cover the GPA from the Baruch, but you had the,
And kind of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And but the good part I really loved about your, to be honest, I loved about your profile is the transitioning from the business side to the quant side. So thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, really thank you for joining in and sharing your story today.
Thanks a lot, Mehul. It is genuinely a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that whoever is listening, it genuinely helps you guys some way or the other, because I know many people out there who are in a situation where they are trying their best through different colleges and all, and I genuinely hope that this podcast really helped them.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Vijay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining and thank you.